This week we're in southern Colorado. I'm incredibly excited to share an elk hunt with young Joe Berg. You know, this 19-year-old young man has never killed an elk before, but I'm thinking that this is going to be the time that he breaks the ice. You know, the elk are thick on the place, they're all herded up, they're still vocal, and I'm looking forward to a phenomenal elk hunt with Joe Berg here at Elk Camp. I'm Steve Chappell, and welcome to Elk Camp. A couple of days before the hunt, we went out scouting, and we got out there, you know, mid-afternoon. Sun was out, it was a clear day, and as we got out of the truck, we could immediately hear elk. We think we hear some elk over here in the canyon, so even though it's pretty early in the evening, we're gonna go take a look, see what we got in there. So that got me really excited. So we hiked in to the west, got set up. I had my big Vortex Razor spotting scope, so that was awesome to have with me that day. And boy, there was a lot of elk out there in front of us. As we looked them over, they were kind of together, but there was actually kind of two separate groups there. And as I glassed those separate groups, off at the back end of the further group, through that Razor spotting scope, I could see a big, wide, heavy bull. Got my phone scope out, got my iPhone out, started getting some footage of him. And I tell you what, right away, I started getting excited about the opportunity to hunt this big, wide, massive bull with Joe. And if seeing those elk through my spotting scope didn't get me excited enough for the hunt, when I checked the Browning trail cameras and pulled the SD cards out and started taking a look at the footage, I saw that big, wide, heavy bull on the trail camera. He was a new bull that we hadn't seen on the ranch yet this year, and I was hoping that he was going to stay around and be there when we started the hunt with Joe. All right, so we're out here. It's the afternoon before the third rifle elk season here in southern Colorado. Got Joe Berg here. Really excited to hunt with him. He's a young guy, but it sounds like you're no stranger to hunting and guns. So
been around him all my life.
We're gonna go ahead and have Joe shoot the Bergara rifle and just confirm the zero for him. But we're ready to go hunt some bugling elk tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's fire this gun and see how she does for you.
Firing. Right after.
Oh man, that one is dead center. Dead center, perfect height.
Awesome.
Dead center, perfect height. Good shoot.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think we're ready to go hunt some elk tomorrow.
Heck yeah. My expectations going into this hunt were, I was just excited to be here and actually be the shooter, because I've been on many trips with my dad, but I've never actually got to be behind the gun, and I was just happy and hopeful that I'd get my first elk.
With all of us really excited, opening morning came and we went out, hiked out in the dark, and right away I could tell it was a little bit different kind of morning. I just wasn't hearing any elk at all. Couldn't hear any bugling, couldn't hear any cow calling. You know, I knew it was getting late in the year, but still, for those elk to be around like they were and then all of a sudden not be able to hear even a stick breaking, I knew that something had gone on. And sure enough, that morning as we hunted and hiked and looked everywhere, we just couldn't turn up an elk. So it ended up just being a complete blank out that morning. All right, so it's opening morning with Joe here, and we got elk in here, but the wind blew all night long. I mean, it about blew the house down. So we saw them yesterday evening, and what we think they did is that they just timbered up. We're just gonna go drink some hot cider and come back out on them this afternoon. Hopefully this wind dies down.
This episode of Elk Camp is sponsored by Bergara Rifles. Our barrels make all the difference. Increase your elk hunting success. Sign up for the University of Elk Hunting online course at elk101.com today.
That afternoon, we went out early. We were really hoping for a change in our luck, that we might be able to get on the elk and they'd be back on the place. But as we started to hike into the burn, we hadn't gone 50 yards and we saw exactly why we hadn't seen any elk that morning. Well, we just started walking up here and we found a dead calf elk here, and it's a lion kill, definitely. It looks like it probably happened last night, and that would account for the fact of us not seeing the elk at all this morning. I'm sure this spooked him out of here quite a ways. You know, caught my attention right over here. There was a bare spot right over here on the ground. Drug it over here a few feet and partially covered it up. So, you know, mountain lions kill deer, they kill elk. Kind of hate seeing this, definitely. It's going to affect the elk here for a day or two, but what do? They do their thing in the night. We'll just get up here and see if we can see them. We went ahead and went out and hunted that evening, even though we had found that dead elk, thinking that, you know, hey, maybe the elk would come back. But you know, with that kill being so recent, I'm sure it had really spooked those elk the night before, and sure enough, you know, kind of my suspicions were confirmed. The elk just weren't around that evening, and we just got blanked out again. So day one was just really uneventful for us. You know, even with the total blank out on day one and not seeing any elk, we were still excited when we got up in the dark on day two. And as we moved up north on the property in the dark, I was really excited because we started hearing vocal elk that morning, so we knew that we had the elk back.
As we were hiking out there, when the sun was coming up, I was praying to God, just asking Him to calm my nerves and let my shot be straight and put it in a good area.
And as we continued approaching these elk, started to be able to see them down in the canyon bottom, and I could tell there was a lot of elk there, and it was going to be a tense, dicey situation to get Joe in there for a shot. So we were getting to where we were within probably 250 yards of them, but we just didn't have the elevation that we needed to be able to get Joe down on the ground and on the shooting sticks. And right when I was trying to work us forward, maybe just another 10 to 15 yards to get us just that little bit of elevation, with us being in that pretty open burn and those elk being in that open canyon bottom, some cows noticed us, stared us down for a few seconds, and then spooked. But I knew that I had my call at the ready, and so I had my Rogue grunt tube and I had my Royal Point mouth reed. I bugled, I chuckled. And immediately the elk reacted and started settling down. Some of them even stopped and started looking our way. And then they started kind of walking and filing to the south. But I could tell that we might get an opportunity if we just played our cards right at that point. As I was looking over the elk to the south, the southernmost group of them, they started to really congregate there on this burn point in some yellow grass. And as I was looking over the group, I caught a glimpse of a bull that looked very familiar to me, and it just so happened to be the wide, heavy bull from the scouting and the Browning trail camera. And right there, I told Joe, that's the bull we want to take.
This episode of Elk Camp is sponsored by Steve Chappell's Zero Hunt Fees. Experience Arizona elk hunting with zero hunt fees. This episode of Elk Camp is sponsored by Steve Chappell's signature line of Rocky Mountain hunting calls.
The one we want to shoot is down there, the lower part in the white grass. Just walking up behind some cows. You see which one? Just to the left of the big white tree, big dead tree. Crank up your scope. Raymond, he's to the left of those green trees on that knob.
Just to the left.
Just to the left, yes.
Okay.
Okay, can you kill him? Yep, got him.
Right when Steve was like, "You hit him," I was so excited. I didn't know what to do. I was just in awe. I was just happy I hit him.
That was pretty exciting, man. I kind of thought I blew it, but Joe kind of saved the day, I think. Once again, you know, if you keep the calls at the ready, that's what elk hunting's about. You can fool them even when things, you know, go a little bit against you. So
That is such a rush.
yeah.
Thank you.
So November 4th. They're still bugling. Thank you, God. It's Sunday morning.
Thank you. Praying about it.
Yeah.
Complete weather change.
Yeah, you got it for sure, didn't you? After Joe shot, we had to sit there for quite a while to let the elk clear out, and that's really due to that suppressor. It's just amazing, you know, to not have it ring your ears and not just blow everything out of the country. So those elk were really slow to leave, and we just sat there and took our time and let those elk move off before we made our way down to where we had last seen the bull.
Look to your left. Closer.
Once again, Raymond.
Good job, Raymond.
Back
All of
at
you,
it
buddy.
again.
Good job, Joe. Congratulations. Thank you, Raymond.
Yeah, that was a good job.
Awesome.
Yes.
Woo.
Got it. Okay.
That was a lot of progress.
Congratulations. I knew that was good news when you said that. You're like a dad with a little kid shed hunting with
Yeah.
him. Hey, look to your right. You're getting warmer. You're getting warmer.
Yes.
Closer.
And as we walked up on this massive bull, it was just incredible to realize when we walked up and put our hands on him that he was the bull from 2 or 3 mornings before when we were scouting that we'd gotten the phone scope footage of, and the same bull that was on the Browning trail camera. You know, to take that one bull out of a group of over 200 elk and to be able to get it with Joe and that be his first elk, well, as a guide, I just can't imagine it getting much better than that. All right, Joe, well, that was a exciting hunt this morning. Yeah, I mean, gosh, we kind of got skunked on the first day. It was almost like a snipe hunt, you know what I'm saying? And you stayed in it, you kept the faith, and we prayed last night for a shift and a change with the elk and give us some wisdom this morning. And you know, we didn't really need a whole lot. The elk were right in here, weren't they? Man, 290-yard shot, I tell you what. Like I said, youth is a beautiful thing, man. You found him and you got it done.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate everybody and all the help for everything that's gone on there.
Yeah, we appreciate you hunting with us, and man, just the way you just got it done this morning. You really did your thing and performed when it mattered most. So great bull too. You know, it's November 4th. This is an old warrior. He's been fighting a little bit, and but we're proud of him this morning. And I'm super proud of you, Joe. Congratulations,
Thank you.
man. Way to go, buddy. Way to go. That's how we do it here at Elk Camp.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I want to thank Raymond, who's got eyes of an eagle. Thanks, Raymond. Awesome. Teamwork makes the dream work, as we always say here at Elk Camp. Thanks, brother.
Woo.
Good job, Joe.
Thank you.
Awesome, man.
You know, it was just an amazing hunt, and God answered all my prayers and everybody's prayers in this camp and at my house. So I was just elated.
This segment of Elk Camp is sponsored by Pendleton Ammunition. Load ammo by hand, one round at a time. This episode of Elk Camp is sponsored by Steve Chappell's Zero Hunt Fees. Experience Arizona elk hunting with zero hunt fees.
You know, with Joe's elk hunt being incredibly exciting and all coming down to that morning of day 2, I was really excited to have my cousin Paul coming in the very next day. I hadn't shared a hunt with Paul in about 20 years, and I knew the elk were still in on the place, and I was really looking forward to having my cousin come in and continue the role of momentum that we were having here at Elk Camp.
Well, I really look forward to just being, again, with family, and you know, Steve is an awesome hunter and guide, but he's even a better person. Super gentle and really easy to be with. And then he knows the animals, he knows the guns, and so it's just the total experience for me between the family, the hunting, the professionalism. It doesn't get better.
You know, I guide here with my dad. I've always enjoyed doing that. You know, grew up hunting here with my dad. Dad is in his 70s, but he's still a phenomenal hunter, still in phenomenal condition. And so Dad was going to come with me and Paul, and I really looked forward to it. And what I told my dad was, Dad, I just want you to guide this hunt, and I just kind of want to soak it in and you know, be there if we need to call or blow a bugle or give a range or something like that. So we got up there again in the dark, walked in, it was low light. You could hear the elk calling in front of us. I knew they were going to be right in front of us, but we got in there, got set up. The elk had no idea we were there, and I'm telling you, there was a load of them. And we just had to sit there and be patient and wait for it to start breaking light.
We got into a good, comfortable spot, and we really were able to watch the animals for a long time, which gave us an opportunity to, you know, again, see where they were heading, to get a good look at all the bulls, to take our choice.
As we started getting some light to where we could start, you know, glassing them up and seeing what they were, I happened to look in the burn to the south, and there was a little group of separate elk, maybe 20 of them or so. And toward the rear of that group, I noticed a bull that I hadn't seen for about 10 days. But I really couldn't tell totally at that point. But I knew right away that it was the best bull of the morning. And as he began to work his way forward, I just felt like the scenario was going to work out to where Paul might get a shot at this bull. As the bull continued to work his way forward, you know, the decision was at that point, do we shoot him where he's at? It was about a 350-yard shot, but we thought with the angle he was taking and the elk that were in front of him, that he would probably continue that direction, and he was cutting the distance down as he was doing it. So we were just letting him get closer and closer, and I'm sure Paul's excitement level had to be getting high at that point. And then he came down off of that burned hillside, got down into the canyon bottom, started making his way toward the other elk, mixing in with them a little bit. I got my bugle at the ready, and I knew it was about time to make a call. Nice, Paul. He's gonna go down. All right. All right, good. Good job, guys. Way to go, Paul. You know, what a great hunt to get to share with my cousin and my dad that morning. I just can't tell you how special it was. You know, to see that bull go down right away. Paul made a great shot. As we made our way down off that hill, we were just all smiles. And as we walked up to that bull, I couldn't wait for Paul to get to lay his hands on him. Yeah, it was fun coming out here and hunting with my cousin and my dad. And
awesome.
We've had some really memorable hunts, all of us together over the years.
Yeah, but really, this was the first time the three of us in one hunt together.
You know what? That's true.
That was awesome. Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good approach, good sneak in, and Paul settled in really good on the shot.
Yeah.
We really liked that, and just one shot and down, that was great.
Yeah. With that suppressor on that Bergara rifle, I mean, those elk don't even know what happened. It was amazing. How'd that feel, Paul, to have about 150 plus elk in front of you and have to wait that long to shoot?
I kept deep breathing.
And it just took some patience, and it sure was nice to see this bull show up a real nice 6-point.
Yeah, absolutely. Great job, you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Austin. Awesome.
Praise God for a great elk hunt at elk camp. Thanks, Raymond.
You know, I personally just thank God for days like today. You have a lot of other days where you're dealing with problems and difficult situations of life, and you get out and you have a day like this, and I just often find myself saying, thank you, Lord, for your blessings and the provision of a great animal like this, the great time with family, and just love being with Steve. We've hunted since really we were in our late teens and early 20s, and just to be able to get together again, it kind of brings back all of that family memories. So it was just a win-win day for me.